We are about a month away from training camp starting, from mini camps. Football is right around the corner, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be exciting, especially to see what these guys do in their new homes. Now, last week, Dylan, Eric, Vincent, and myself, we ranked the top 5 quarterbacks. And with you joining me this week, I said, let's do with no Russ. You're right. So now I'm giving you the opportunity to get in who you think are the best 5 running backs heading into the 2022 season. Okay? Now, we're going to look at, it's not just, 2021, whatever. There's got to be a reasoning behind this, okay? I know that you will, but we're looking at, and it's not even fantasy driven. We're talking specifically about who are the best running backs in the NFL to us heading into the 2022 season. We're going to work from the bottom up. And I'm going to leave this question to you.
Yes.
We both have honorable mentions. Do we need to mention them, or do we want to wait till the end?
Yes.
But do you want to do it now or at the end?
Because I want to do it now. Honorable mentions, kind of get them out of the way. We both agree on one. Austin Eckler is the best in terms of dual threats. Arguably, he's actually works more as like a slot back than he does as an actual running back. But he's phenomenal in that regard. Great offense for him as it is. Injuries are the only problem, but it's because he's extremely slight. And especially when you're talking about running backs, specific running backs, that's part of it. You had him as an honorable mention for injury purposes. I have him honorable mention because he is not a true running back, I would argue. The other one that I would have, and there is only one reason, and you actually articulated the same as I did. Najee Harris, I will say that probably by 2023, I would have as number 1 or number 2. He is absolutely capable. He is going to be the brunt workhorse for that offense as Kenny Pickett becomes acclimated. The only concern is that going into training camp, he did look a little bit on the heavy side. So we need to see how that goes, especially for injuries early in the season. So that's the only real concern that I have. But if everything goes the way it did last year, Najee Harris is going to be number 1 or number 2
running backs, and they're slumping up in the offseason, man.
Big
like
fellas.
Eddie Lacy in Green Bay, remember?
Big fellas.
Trent Richardson as well.
Yeah,
man, like, it just seems like
Southern cooking, man.
I guess
so. That's all it is.
I had one more honorable mention, and that's Christian McCaffrey, because it is very tough to put. And listen, when he's healthy, he's probably one of the most dynamic running backs in the league, but he cannot stay on the field long enough.
He's like Austin Eckler.
I disagree with you on
that. No, but he is. For one thing, I would argue he's not really a true running back, for one. And number 2, the injuries are worse, much worse than Austin Eckler's are. And I'll be honest, between the two of them, with careers, who would you rather have right now, Austin Eckler or Christian McCaffrey? Carolina already told you they wanted to get rid of him. So how good is he really if his team, who is already bereft of talent, wants to ship him out of town?
They're rebuilding. They wanted
Derrick Henry was also on a rebuilding team, but they kept him along. And because he actually stayed on the field. McCaffrey didn't. Availability is a skill that is extremely important as we go through this list.
Especially as a running back in the NFL.
Or a fake running back.
But he's an honorable mention, Dylan. He's not in the top 5. Can you relax a little bit?
I can argue even if you have the
fake list. What?
He's on the fake list. Honorable mention, right? They didn't earn it, but we're making up extra spots.
Yeah, we go to the top 5.
But now we go to number 5.
Let's go to the top 5 running backs. I'm going to let you start with who's the 5th best running back in your eyes heading into 2022?
This is a guy where injuries have really hindered where he is up here, because Dalvin Cook, when he is healthy, is exceptional. It feels very similar in the way that Adrian Peterson's prime was wasted by Minnesota as well. And I don't even know what the word is for this. Just incredible, to be honest, that Minnesota has had Adam Thielen, they had Justin Jefferson, and they had Stephon Diggs. Those 3 receivers, And they had prime Dalvin Cook, and he has had a few years now where he's been playing at least half, which starting his career you would have never thought would have happened. And still, what did they have to show for it? A kind of fake NFC title appearance that wouldn't have happened if a safety decided not to press up on the R stick. So with that in mind, that's why I have him fifth. I'll be honest, if he was healthy or if there was an actual quarterback on his side, maybe he'd be higher. I don't know. Out of all the guys that are on here, what if is the thing that will define Dalvin Cook?
I think quarterback play is a huge aspect of Cook. I actually have Cook one spot higher than you do. I have him at 4, and I have Alvin Kamara at 5. And I know I already hear your argument. He's not a true running back. He's like a slot back. He doesn't get to. You don't get to count him on this list because he's a slot back, and all he does is catch the ball out of the backfield. Okay, you know what? Fine, but you're getting ready to do a show about fantasy football. He's listed as a running back. I can put him on the running back list. There's no slot back list on fantasy football.
That's fine, but where's his value come from? The fact that he runs the ball, or the fact that he catches?
If the hole's big enough, he busts some runs.
Oh, fantastic. I did in middle school, too. Listen, that's not saying much.
I just think that the type of player and the dynamic player that he is and his ability to get the ball past the line of scrimmage and make things happen, whether it is tossed or it is handed to him, makes him a top 5 running back in the NFL.
You did say with the specification of 2022, and there is an elephant in the room that you're not mentioning. There you go. So with that in mind, I rest my case.
Which you told me isn't really going to take into account that much. That really doesn't matter that much. So thank you for setting me up so you can have that got you moment. But still, at the end of the day, I know who you're getting ready to say is your number 4. I don't dislike him. I just... Maybe it's a A5B thing between the guy that you're getting ready to mention and Kamara. But go ahead. Who's your number 4? Okay. I already said my number 4.
So you had Cook number 4. My number 4 is on a team that actually won things, which definitely matters, which is Joe Mixon being a phenomenal back in a single back system, which for anybody, not to down talk, just to clarify. So Cincinnati just does not run with a fullback. They don't do it. It's not part of their system. Everything is either out of the gun, single back, something, a variation of that kind, pistol, obviously, as well. And Joe Mixon obviously has a lot more responsibility on that front. Pass protection-wise, it is on him. There is no fullback to help him out with that. He obviously is a very good receiving back as well. Pretty much, to be fair, as much as I joke about the spellback part of it, catching is some
then they are not allowed to be on this list. It is runners only.
It is more that when your worth is entirely dependent on that stat. And so Joe Mixon, you look at his numbers with that in mind in a scheme that is not a run-heavy scheme for one. That's part of it. One thing that obviously is a calculus there, he's not a good person, which, to be honest, I don't care when it comes to this. Not to be callous, but they're football players. None of them are very good people. And so if we were going to do that, there's allegations about Dalvin Cook and all these people. So that if that's part of your determination whether Joe Mixon is worthy or not, or if for fantasy purposes you draft him, I think it's a foolish move. But again, better system, better running back, Papa John.
I think the most impressive thing about Mixon, and I'm not mad that you put him on your list and I left him off. Like, I made my list. I take responsibility for it. Their offensive line was not good last year.
That helps, especially when he doesn't have the help of a fullback system. No I formation, no true power.
Good call at 4. Who do you got at 3?
I was going to say, not to double you up here, but this is where I'm just going to say it. You're going to lead after that because of where you have this person. I have Derrick Henry number 3. Controversy abounds.
You do.
Let's get to it.
Have him at 3. Which I understand the potential of putting your number 2 and number 1 above Derrick Henry. Like, I get that. And I'm not, upset at it. I just think if I'm going to scheme and offense that is slanted towards the run game, Derrick Henry is going to be the back that I would put in that backfield because he is a very tough runner. Now, I will say, I don't necessarily like his running style all the time. Because
speak to it, because that's what I was going to say. So expand on that.
Yes, we've seen the stiff arm. He put, who was it, Josh Norman in an early grave, and it's impressive.
Sure,
but he runs way too high, and I think he's what is he like 6'2", 6'3"?
Extremely high.
He's already a big
taller.
Dude. Look
No,
right
he's
now. I got it pulled
taller.
up. Yeah. Okay.
He's 6'3", 247.
So he's already abnormally tall for a running back nowadays. I think not the last, but when I think about like tall running backs, Eddie George comes to mind, right? 6'3", same. But
yes.
Eddie also did not run as high as Derrick Henry does, and
no, not at all.
He runs high, and that's why ankle problems, right? You could see knee problems because he's not running low enough with his pad level, but he's still been extremely dominant.
I appreciate you saying that, and obviously there is an aspect of this where you do have to throw in the Ryan Tannehill aspect of this, of why they didn't advance further. Also, I think Mike Vrabel is actually a very bad football coach. He's lost them way too many games. However, you cannot deny that he actually does come up small when it actually matters. Because of the fact that he does run so high, he is nowhere near as shifty. Yes, obviously, he can throw guys off of him, and everybody freaks out about those stiff arms. But when you're not going up against corners, he's not clowning around with defensive linemen. The good defensive linemen are going to take him down. And you saw that in Cincinnati, or not in Cincinnati, but against Cincinnati, where how effective really is he? In his postseason games when he's not going up against completely inept defenses, and obviously Cincinnati wasn't any great shakes. I don't respect it because it feels the same as OBJ, where OBJ obviously has every talent in the world to be incredible, but when your entire game is based around flash rather than actual skill and prowess of the actual position, I don't respect you when it comes to creating an actual running scheme. Like you said, I don't want to create a running scheme for Derrick Henry. I have no confidence that he'll hit the hole, because what he'll feel like is he'll bounce outside of the hole and think that he can just run over cornerbacks. And instead, if there's anybody with even a little amount of speed, like a Los Angeles Rams, where you have someone like a Bobby Wagner or Darius Leonard or whomever, like I don't want to see my running back not actually do the things that a running back's supposed to do.
And I think it's a valid point, but I think you might be overstating the not showing up in big moments thing. And the reason why I say that you're overstating it is because of who his quarterback is. And I know you mentioned it. I know you touched on it. But when there is not a threat of the quarterback beating you, and you can load a box up with 7, 8 guys if you have to, that does make Derrick Henry's job that much harder.
However, with the two individuals that I have ahead of him, because to be fair, this is based on rankings of a top 5. I am not stating that obviously that Derrick Henry is some scrub that I wouldn't have in a top 5 system. So this is compared to his peers that I have above him, to be clear. However, I would also, again, in the postseason, 20 rushing attempts, 62 yards. If he's really as good as you say, then I don't really see how in the playoffs against Cincinnati's defense that he has 3.1 average yards per carry.
To see what type of defensive scheme. I can't remember what they ran, but
they did load the box, and Tannehill did miss throws. I'm not ignoring that aspect of it. But I would argue the two individuals I have above him would still excel.
I mean, we both have these guys in our top 3 is the same, just ordered slightly different. Really, truthfully, it's just replacing my 1 with your 2, and really that's it.
You tried.
You moved my 1 down to 3 and bumped your other 2 up. That's basically what it was.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So we're in agreement on who the top 3 quarterbacks are.
Like that.
Or running backs are. Sorry. Who the top 3 running backs are going into 2022. Yeah. So who do you have at number 2?
Number 2 is going to be Nick Chubb. Going into last year was number 1. He is phenomenal if you give every consideration to everything we just talked about. If you are an individual who trashes Baker Mayfield, then you cannot ignore 100%. Nick Chubb's production. You can't. There is no way around that. If you are going to have that, and then because I know I can almost feel it that there is going to be a tangible connection between individuals who like Derrick Henry and also hate Baker Mayfield. It's just that is a logical stream of consciousness. And if that is your opinion, and I appreciate that that's the case, Nick Chubb, I would argue, has done better with that because Ryan Tannehill is definitely a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield, I would argue. And on top of that, he also was in a system that did not have A.J. Brown, did not have, obviously, Julio Jones. Getting hit or miss on that. But you had a quarterback who, beyond 25 yards, isn't very accurate. And you just excelled in every way. There is nobody who hits a hole better than he does, except for my number 1. He has everything about the fundamentals of the position in actual fundamentals that matter. You talk about pad level, right? That's the thing the high school running back coaches talk about and scream at all the time. Nick Chubb's pad level's phenomenal, way better than Derrick Henry's is. So that's why
I have Nick Jonathan Chubb Taylor number 2. Which I know irks you a little bit. I had Chubb 3. So
I don't think this is an arguable position.
Screwed up the order because you told me to talk about Derrick Henry, who was my number 1. And when we were talking about 3, I had Nick Chubb at 3. Because, I mean, we talked about staying on the field being a skill. And when he's on the field very consistently, a very good running back. I am always so mad when he is not on my fantasy team. It's so irritating. Same. It's so irritating. But then you have Jonathan Taylor at number 1. I have Jonathan Taylor at number 2. And talk to me about JT.
Jonathan Taylor is absolutely, in his second year already,
really
the best running back in the NFL. I'll be honest, I think it was funny. I don't know if you remember this or not, but going into the NFL draft, there were a lot of people who were like, he's not that good. It's about Wisconsin, it's about the system,
already,
all
the amount of carries he had in college. He was there for, I think, 3 years, so he got a ton of carries in college. A lot of tread on the tire.
He got a ton of touches, yes. All understood. However, AJ, how does 332 carries in a season sound? And also 40 receptions on top of that.
Not bad.
And again, I will not pretend in any way that Jonathan Taylor is even remotely close in style.
Doesn't count.
Yeah. I knew that was coming there. He is phenomenal at that. That's great. The thing is, however, AJ, that you could literally erase the entirety of his receiving, even though he had 360 yards, 9 yards per average on his catches. He had 332 rushing attempts. Insanity, by the way. 1,811 yards. 5.5 yard average per carry. He is getting a first down every 2 plays.
That's pretty good.
Come on.
But then again, you think about it.
There's a reason why.
The Colts didn't have any other choice but to hand him the ball because Carson Wentz was our quarterback.
But then that throws in the same vein as what we were saying with Derrick Henry. And Jonathan Taylor did much more in that regard. Everything that you want to give compliments to Derrick Henry, and in certain regards, rightfully, Jonathan Taylor did a lot more of. Jonathan Taylor, if you look at actually when he's running, you see his field vision there is no one close. His field vision is phenomenal. In the open field, he runs exceptionally well, not necessarily looking for contact, trying to get as many yards as he can. Again, a 5.5 carry average, I don't know if everybody understands, especially with how many carries he had. That is like, I don't want to obviously go to the cliche of Barry levels because he isn't as shifty, but that is still of that level to where when Barry was running the ball, you knew it was going to be a first down. This isn't even a
breakout, though.
It's the same thing.
You know what I'm saying? 5 yards a carry is what he also got his rookie season. In 100 less carries, too.
That's true.
You're right. Jonathan Taylor, you're right. I'm wrong. Jonathan Taylor should be number one. I shouldn't have put Henry up there. Shouldn't have done it.
Jonathan Taylor is going to be the number one draft pick by a mile. He's way more deserving than Christian McCaffrey's been in these last few years because of his durability. He has 564 carries in 2 seasons. Now, that is concerning 3-4 years from now. I am very concerned about that, but we're talking about 22. And with that in mind, Henry's on the backslide where, let's say that Henry's decline starts now. It's going to be heavy, and it's going to get ugly. And it is. Jonathan Taylor, the only reason is because he's going to have like Le'Veon Bell at Michigan State. He just is the entire team. And again, for folks at home, watch his highlights and how he is seeing and he is basically diagnosing the play as it is happening in a way I haven't seen from a back in a long time. I honestly don't know of a guy who has been this exceptionally good at being able to make something out of it.
You're right. Your list is better than mine. I'm not afraid to admit that. Your list is better than mine.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate it.
That's our top 5 running backs heading into 2022. Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what? Yeah.